funny enough that All-Star Weekend is in Oakland or in the Bay.
Yep.
You get traded the following year, right?
No, it was that same year.
Same year. So
Yeah.
you end up going back right after.
Yep.
What was that experience of getting traded like? Especially first time you've ever been traded, you 19, 20 years old at that point. What kind of effect did that have on you as a player?
No, it didn't really have an effect on me because growing up, I went to a different school every year up until I got to high school.
Right.
So I was good with moving around. I'm here for a year, whatever months, I'm going to this other school. I got to make new friends or do whatever I got to do at this school. So I was used to that.
Okay.
So being traded never bothered me. Half the time I was asking for the trade.
Okay.
Right. So me and Larry Brown, we butted heads.
Okay.
Me being from where I'm from, his thought process and his mentality of where he's from, we butted heads. I mean, it's the young guy coming up. He already had Allen, who was more than he can handle.
Right.
So to add me into that mix, it was taking him overboard.
Pushing him off the cliff.
It was taking him overboard. So we clashed a lot. I mean, to this day, I learned a lot from Larry Brown, one of my great mentors to this day. But during that time, we clashed. But being traded out to Golden State, it was me getting a chance to experience if I'm able to play in this league.
Right.
And that's how I looked at it. They gave me the basketball, said go out there, hoop, go make plays, and we'll see what we got later.
Right.
And that's what I did. So that experience of being traded, obviously with the Sixers doing what they did, they made it to the finals. I didn't get a chance to get comfortable with where I was at, whether it be six-man coming off the bench, whether it be playing behind AI, letting him rock the show and fill in the blanks. In Golden State, it was like, okay, you go hoop. And I figured out that I could actually make it and play in the league by that time going out to Golden State. I'm sure I would have figured that out later on, but that experience really helped me, understand that, hey, dude, you can play in this league.
Right. And so you also kind of got the dynamic of going from a team that has, playoff aspirations at the time. Warriors weren't really again, you was kind of rebuilding, trying to see what you guys had in young talent. What were some of those, what takeaways do you have from that time with the Warriors?
Oh man, that was a wild ride. That was a wild ride. I mean, we went games. We wouldn't win a game in a month. 13 games lost, 14 games lost. We didn't win a game.
Right.
So it's like, imagine showing up to work knowing that you don't really have a chance to win the day. That's the kind of things that we were running into in Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
But we were exploring.
Right.
We were exploring. We were getting to play all the minutes.
Yep.
Getting a chance to make all the mistakes. So that was okay for that learning period. And I tell people all the time, I played in Golden State, obviously before Steph and before they got good, in times when we were only winning 19 games in a season.
Right.
So during that time, I learned a lot, but at the same time, I don't like to lose. So that factored into how I carried myself, with the moods that I was in. So, that was, just a small piece of, figuring out that you don't want to be a loser, in the NBA.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know Palmer kind of asked about this before we got to record, too, getting to go up against Kobe, get to, kind of go toe-to-toe with him in some of those Western Conference battles and back in that time. What was that experience like, and kind of, what takeaways or what things could you learn from playing against him?
Oh, well, I loved it. I loved the competition. I loved the fight, the elbows we would exchange, the knees that we would do. I loved all of that because he brought that out of you.
Yeah.
If you allowed him to step on your foot and you not move, he's going to step on your ankle and to your shin and he's going to keep going.
Yeah.
That's the type of person he is. So there was a lot of pushback, and we were right there. Just as far as the developing and trying to be a shooting guard and trying to. Obviously, the Lakers were in a different position, so they had different aspirations than what we had. So we were just going out to hoop.
Right.
So whenever I got a chance to go out and hoop and compete against Kobe, that was fun for me. And being in Golden State and playing him in the preseason and the regular season, I see him 8 times.
Right. I was gonna say you get to see.
I played against Kobe 8 times, and he didn't take preseason games off or whatnot. We would do stuff in Hawaii where both teams would go over, play exhibition game. He didn't take time off like that. So for at least 3 years, I'm playing him 8 times a year.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's fun, and at the same, we got a lot of pictures, a lot of video from it, but people don't get a chance to experience that sort of level of competition that many times a year.
Right.
we were doing back then.
Right. So you get the time, kind of grow and develop your game in Golden State, then move on to Washington.
Yep.
At the time, I guess when you were in Golden State, you and Gilbert Arenas were together for a brief period.
Yep.
You go out to Washington, he comes later. Was that familiarity good for y'all in trying to build up that culture? Because, again, it was another team that first got there, may not have been winning quite as much, but kind of got turned around as you and some other players got involved.
Well, GA was my little brother. He's my little brother. So when he got drafted in Golden State, I was already there, and I was the first guy they called. I think I was the first guy or the only guy that they knew could have conversations with him and, kind of get him on the right track.
Right.
So he's been, since he came into the league, I've been making sure that he's straight, making sure he had meals, making sure that he had money in his pocket, make sure on the road that, things went right. So when I moved and went to Washington and played the season out, and then he got a chance to come there after my first season, like we're right back in the same ball game again.
Right.
Like he's coming to a new city, new situation. Like he knows that I'm gonna make sure he's straight, and all he got to do is hoop.
Right.
So we had a really good relationship. Also, Antoine Jameson.
Yep.
So we put a really good team together in Washington, for those couple years, and Gilbert was a big piece of that.
Yep. So Washington, you get a chance to get into the playoffs and kind of get some, real meaningful basketball games going. Eastern Conference, a lot of people don't remember, was pretty tough at that time.
Yep.
So what were those battles like going up against, the Detroit Pistons, the Miami Heats? Probably was a little bit before the Boston Celtics, but the Pacers team that was part of the whole Malice at the Palace thing. Like, what were those battles night in and night out?
Tough, and you can imagine. You just look at how the rules have evolved from back when I was playing to how they're now.
Right.
It's tough because guys can stand with 2 feet in the paint. Yeah. Right. There was, all the physical contact that you could allow, from a defender, they allowed it. So it was tough. It was not only the skill of players, but also the strength.
Yep.
And going against skilled players that can also use their strength is tough. Right now in this game, skilled players, they have to use their skill. Strong players, they have to use their skill. They can't just be the strong player anymore.
Right.
So, but when I was playing, it was different. So having skilled guys and strong guys, man, it was a battle.
And so backtracking just a second, though, of course, you first get to Washington. Michael Jordan is there.
Yep.
Your first year in Washington is his last year.
Yep.
Correct? So what is that like? Do y'all know, like, immediately going into the season that's okay, this is going to be kind of his, like, farewell tour?
Oh, yeah, we knew. We knew. What's crazy is actually M was in the front office because he actually signed me. So
wow.
So he signed me, and then I was also his teammate.
Yeah.
And we had some prior relationships because of St. Louis and Chicago and Tim Grover and working out with those guys. So I knew M from, and also David Falk, who was with Fame and those agents. So I knew up MJ. But to have him sign you and to then be his teammate and to then know that this is his last season, you can't beat that.
Right.
Like, you can't beat that. Like, I got visual experiences that nobody will ever, have because of just, me being in that space, at the right place at the right time.
What was the best thing that you learned from MJ in that one season?
Man, it's how he carries himself, how he commands a room, how he is respected when he walks into a room. Those are the most important things that I pulled away. Because, again, we're talking about, like, MJ being at the end. So as a player, like, that you're going to some point in time be at the end. So how do I do that? Like, a lot of guys, we do the court stuff. But how do I do that? Like, how do I have a presence? Like, how do I have that vibe, that persona about me? Like, when I walk in, it's like, oh, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I watched about MJ.
Did you have any one-on-ones with him, like, just off to the side and y'all chatted for 15, 20 minutes, or did he take your money when he was playing cards?
we did everything that teammates do.
Okay.
Like, we had those conversations in the locker room. We had those towel conversations. But, like, we had, on the plane, him, putting out the cigar on the bus, him firing up the cigar. Like, we had all of those conversations like that you would have, like, with – say a normal teammate, but like a normal guy, like another teammate. Like, we had all of those experiences I took money from him. He took money from me. You know what I'm saying? Charles Oakley is, another name, another legend that comes in the mind. We talk about us sitting around, and I'm looking at Oak and M and like all these people that I've seen on these different Let It Fly, Come Fly With Me videos and things like that. The people that run with M, like that was an experience for me.
Wow.
That's
what's up, man.
So, of course, Mike moves on. We talked about you linking back up with Gilbert Arenas. Y'all start winning in Washington.
Yep.
Going to those playoff battles with, again, Detroit, Cleveland. You then switch teams.
Yep.
You go on the other side of those Cleveland and Washington battles. First question, how did that get received by your former Wizards teammates?
Well, they know me, so they know what time it was.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They know me. They know, that Washington, like they say, they fumbled it.
Right.
Like they knew that I wanted to come back. They knew that I wasn't asking for much. They knew that, the ball was in their court.
Right.
So whenever I wasn't there, they automatically knew who to look at. Like they knew not to look at me because they knew what time it was with me. So I didn't have any side eyes because the guys that I was with, they knew, they knew what time it was. And to credit Eddie Jordan, with those Washington teams as well, because he brought in a system and a style that was really good for me, and that's player movement, ball movement, equal opportunity offense. Was that Princeton offense is what they were calling it. But he came in and he really brought just a different vibe to what Washington was doing, but also just to get myself in positions to be successful. He really helped me out.
Right. And so in Washington that last year, 04-05, basically career year for you, over 20 points a game, you lead the league in steals. Like, was your mindset of preparation any different that year versus any other years, or is that just kind of how the chips fell?
Well, we were connected. The offense was working. Like I was comfortable in my space. I knew I had GA. I knew I had Twan.
Yep.
Right. I knew I had Brendan. I knew I had Eton.
Yep.
So I knew my guys. I knew what time it was. Like I knew if I took like 2 bad shots, like they wouldn't be over there chirping about they're gonna freeze me out the next time. They're gonna let me rock, let me figure it out.
Yep.
So I knew those guys and they knew me. So when we and that's really when I performed my best. So that's what it was, a culmination of all those things and just being healthy.
Yep.
I struggled with a bunch of nagging injuries with hands and stuff like that. So just that year was healthy, and then actually got injured, during that year as well. But for the most part, I was healthy, and the team was really focused on executing the offense.
There you go.
About that, you spoke about injuries, and you said you had a lot of nagging ones. How were you able to handle that? Because players get down on themselves when they constantly getting injured and stuff like that. How were you able to handle that during your NBA career?
It's really just play through it, right? And I think a lot of guys may get down because of what the outside noise is. Like if you're injured, you can't perform the way you would normally perform. I mean, there's an outlier 1 or 2 times you may just feel great this game and it just all click for you and you actually get your job done. But when you're injured, like it weighs on your performance. And I think a lot of guys let what people are saying, who don't really know exactly what's going on, it affects their mental and it affects their game. But for me, I was just a little different. I was a little different. I knew I had perspective, so I knew that whatever was going on, it wasn't the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was injured, like it would get better. Like maybe I don't want to be injured at this time, but that's what it is. I mean, I live by serenity. I've been living by serenity my whole life.
Yeah.
So that's really a part of it. But injuries are a part of the game. Like I tell my son, like, it won't be your first. It's not your first, and it definitely won't be your last. So you just got to manage all that stuff in between.
That's what's up. Yep. You get a chance to be in Cleveland, get a chance to play with LeBron James. You got a chance to participate in the NBA Finals. What was that experience like? Usually, like, I'm here at the end-all, be-all.
Well, it's what we shoot for.
Right.
Even when I'm in Golden State, like before I start training camp, we're going to win a championship. That's how I'm preparing. Like I'm putting myself in position so we can win a championship. So when you do all of that work year after year, and then you finally get a chance to make that happen. And again, I got injured in the Detroit series before we played the finals, before we played San Antonio. So I only played 2 games in the finals because I was injured. But I made it there.
Mm-hmm.
All of those years of preparing, I actually made it there. And then there's a lot of guys that's in the league that play in the league, that have played in the league, that have never made it to the finals.
Right.
That have been injury-free their whole career. You know what I'm saying? Everything's been good, that have never played in the finals.
Yeah.
I got that experience being in the last 2 teams, all of the media, doing all of the interviews. Like, I got that experience, so it was great.
That's what's up.